And thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. We're going to talk Arizona basketball, what a sweep of this road trip would mean for the Cats, a little bit of Arizona women's basketball as well, because they're aiming up in the rankings, and a little bit of Arizona football. Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're going to talk some Arizona men's basketball here first because you got a big road trip. Now, the first thing that I think people need to know about is Arizona is at fourth in the polls. I think we all know that, obviously. But there's a couple key things that you need to keep in mind here. And sorry, I'm battling a little bit of a cold right here. But there's something that I think people do need to know here. And first and foremost is that Arizona, if they win out, they essentially control their own destiny. And what I mean by that is that, you know what, if Arizona wants to be a number one seed out west, then they can be a number one seed out west. They just got to continue to be able to win games. That's the big thing that I think you got going here. You can't drop the bad games. And like I said, we had I almost said U of A, Rhino. We had Ryan Hansen on a while back, and Rhino mentioned and he said that if you want Arizona to be a number one seed, you really need to be rooting for Washington State. Washington State is the one loss on Arizona's resume that just does not look very good right now. But I think that it's fair to say that Washington State has some potential to run off some games. And if they can run off a few games, then that would obviously be a very, very good look for the University of Arizona. So again, we all need to be Washington State fans. Well, we also need to be, in a weird way, and I know that this is hard to say, we need to be UCLA fans as well, because UCLA is the one team in the conference where Arizona could theoretically get some nice wins, or could theoretically get another nice win or possibly two from. So again, I know it's not, or it doesn't feel right to root for. I know it doesn't feel right to root for UCLA, but you know, at the end of the day, we also got to back the A. We got to root for Arizona in that manner. So now, looking at this road trip right now, I think the thing that's going to be fascinating is Arizona, because again, one thing that Arizona's done is they've kind of played to their opponent's level. And I guess what I mean by that is when they play a really good team, then Arizona tends to struggle a little, Arizona tends to play up. Arizona tends to play very well against that good team. When they play a team that isn't that good, then they tend to play down. I'll give you an example. There's no reason that you should be able to beat a team like Tennessee or, you know, in Indiana handily, and then at the same time struggle with a team like and at the same time struggle with a team like Cal. Now we've got a few things that are we got a few things coming up here, but I think right now Arizona is in the kind of in the right Arizona's in the right frame of mind, and I think that Arizona is playing some really, really good basketball right now. And I think that's what's exciting to see. Now, position by position, we know Azuolas Tubelis right now should be, in my opinion, he should be the Pac-12 Player of the Year by a mile, because I don't know that there's anybody that's even really close right now. And quite frankly, it doesn't feel like there's anybody that's even close. I think with Arizona, the one thing that you got to look at, though, is we got to continue to be able to beat people up front. And I think they're going to be able to do that. Now, let's talk about Kirk Kriisa. Now, let's talk about Kirk Kriisa a little bit. Some interesting things going on there. He's playing some really, really, really good ball right now. And he's shooting better. He's being a much better facilitator out there as well. And I think that's something that if you're Arizona, you want to be able to see. You want to be able to see a point guard out there that is commanding traffic, that is leading things, and is basically showing players the right way. And he's done that. Again, he might not be the quintessential point guard per se. He's not the Mike Bibby. He's not the Damon Stoudemire. He's not the Jason Terry. He's not a guy like that. But if you're clutch, if you can make big time shots, which he's shown that he can continue to do, if you could just continue to get that free throw percentage up just a little bit, then if you can continue to get that up just a little bit, then I think that you're looking at a point guard that you can really, really win some games with. Now, one thing that Arizona has that maybe some other teams don't is right now. I think that you're looking at a team that is very vulnerable against certain teams. Now, again, what I mean by the certain teams is when you're dealing with certain teams that are physical, quick, you name it, with guards. I watched this team, and they're very matchup specific. What I mean by matchup specific is that there's going to be certain teams, and this could be teams in the second round that start to get at you, and that could be a little bit of a problem for Arizona. That's why it's important to get the 1 seed, try to get the easiest path available. So again, you got to be able to beat Cal, and then after that, you got Stanford coming up. Stanford isn't good either. Stanford isn't good either. But at the same time, I think you're also looking at a team where they've got a little bit of talent. You got Harrison Ingram, you got players like that, but they're also just not. They leave a lot to be desired. I'll put it to you like that. Arizona should be able to win this trip. And not only should Arizona be able to win this trip, I think that Arizona should be able to win this trip fairly handily. And that's kind of where we're at now with things like that. Now, with the rest of the conference, let's talk about the rest of the conference here a little bit. You got USC playing Oregon tonight. You got UCLA playing Oregon tonight. I think we're at the stage where you got to root for both those schools to be able to boost Arizona's resume when they do end up playing. That's, to me, what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to continue to get good wins, because we know how the national media is. We know the national media, when they can, they're going to try to minimize what Arizona can do, and they're going to try to limit what the impact of the win is. They're going to try to impact what the win is, and that's why you got to get as many of those as you can. So. Right now, I look at it and I think to myself that Arizona right now should be a 1 seed, but you got to continue to take care of business. You got to continue to take care of business, and if you take care of business, then you're going to be good. That's kind of where it's at now with that. Now let's switch over to a little bit of Arizona women's basketball. Now, Adia Barnes' group is. Pretty much, I would say, Adia Barnes' group is kind of in the you're looking at kind of that number 3, that number 4 seed. and you're kind of in that number 3, that number 4 seed. But if you could get a win tonight against Stanford, then you really change your trajectory a lot. And if you change your trajectory a lot, that's a very good thing, obviously. I think right now Arizona feels like about a 3 seed. I think, again, honestly, I think they feel like about a number 3 seed, and there's nothing wrong with being a number 3 seed. There's everything right with being a number 3 seed. But Arizona could really help themselves by getting a win against Stanford, because not only does Stanford have and not only does Stanford have a pretty much a team that's very, very good, but they also have a name recognition. When women's college basketball, that comes with a lot right there. If you've got the name recognition, it definitely helps. And if Arizona were able to get this win today, then I think you would be in a really, really good. Really, really good setup. And I think with the Dia Barnes unit, there's every reason to believe, because again, we talked about this before the year, that this team would probably take a little bit of time to gel. And there's nothing wrong with that, because again, you've got so many different transfers in. And not only do you have so many different transfers in, you've got players that are, how do I put this? You got a lot of transfers in, but you've also got players who are able to fill different roles. I'll put it to you like that. And I think that right now, this is a team that is tall. They're talented. They're athletic. You got Jade LaVille, who you've got Jade LaVille, who I think right now is going to be I think Jade LaVille is probably going to be the player that I think Jade LaVille is probably going to be the player that is kind of at the stage where she's going to be kind of your takeover there at the last second, because of how talented she is. We're going to talk about her in a second, though, and what she's been able to do. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. All right, FanDuel, the number one. All right, this FanDuel Sportsbook, FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. And here's what you got. You can put down $5 and you could get up to $150 in free plays. Not only can you get $150 in free plays, it's been not only do you $150 in free plays, but again, you can go on there and you can bet live, you could bet in game, you can put all of that stuff out there, and you can put all of that stuff out there, and it's it's fun. And again, makes betting more interesting. Not only does it make betting more interesting, it makes the game more interesting. You can do it with FanDuel because it's trusted. Again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Check it out. Very good stuff right there. As you know, that this is with Locked On. So again, check it out. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more Arizona women's basketball coming up here in a minute. Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. Now, we got even more to get to here, but we're going to keep talking. You've got a bunch of teams that are kind of in that 15 range, something like that, in the conference right now. If you're Arizona, you have the ability to be able to get pretty much wherever you want. because again, when you're in the Pac-12 basketball conference for women, that is the best conference in the country. Not only is it the best conference in the country, it is the it not only is it the best conference in the country, it gives you an opportunity to be able to win, to be able to exercise demons left and right, and that's something that Arizona's going to have to do. They're going to have to exercise some demons here, because again, this is um, this is a team that has had some flat performances, whether that was against Baylor, whether that was against or excuse me, not against Baylor, whether that was against Stanford earlier in the season. Perfect example when it was against Stanford. When it was against Stanford, the Arizona just didn't look good, and when they struggle, it's because they struggle to score. And that's kind of where Arizona is. But I do feel that at this stage, maybe Jade LaVille is starting to take over to a certain degree right there, to where she is able to get some buckets, and not only get some buckets, but able to be that player that, you need somebody to clear out and score. And yes, while Shayna Pellington has been able to do that, you don't feel great about it, mainly because she's not a great shooter, and she can be held off. With Jade, though, Jade's got the great jumper, and on top of that, you got Kate Reese in there as well. This is a big game for the University of Arizona. We're going to talk about what a win would mean coming up here in a second. You're listening to Locked On Wildcats. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about what a win would mean. A win for Arizona, I believe, would put them back into kind of that top 10 range right there that you're looking for if you're a U of A fan. I said before the year that I thought this could be Adia's most talented team. Combination of height, athleticism, shooting, you name it, they've got it. And but again, you're dealing with a lot of new pieces out there. And when you're dealing with a lot of new pieces out there, and you're dealing with a lot of new pieces out there. And again, these are also proud players. You got to remember, in college basketball, even when a player comes and sacrifices a little bit, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're totally happy with losing points, losing shots. Nobody's happy with losing points, losing shots at any level. But when you bring in players like this, a lot of times that's going to have to be the case. You're going to have to, give up a little bit. And Esmery Martinez has done that. Jade LaVille has done that. Lauren Fields has certainly done that. The high profile girls coming in as well have all done that. So again, it's there's a lot to it right there when it comes to it. So it's something you got to certainly keep in mind, though, when it comes to Arizona women's basketball, is that it's not easy to necessarily just put all these pieces together, especially when they're upperclassmen. Because like I said, I think a lot of people think, well, they're upperclassmen, they're upperclassmen, but at the same time, they've been in other places. They've been set in his ways. He's been set in his ways for quite a while. So you got to look at that. And, again, it's impressive what Adia's group has done. But if Arizona wins tonight, I think you're looking at a team that's squarely looking at a number 3 seed with the potential to move up, because at that point, you've also got some really nice wins that you can start banking on. You can start looking at and saying, all right, well, our resume is really starting to heat up a little bit here. So on that note, though, I know we didn't get to any Arizona football. We'll get to Arizona football tomorrow, promise you. But wanted to touch base on Arizona women's basketball and Arizona men's basketball, because it is a huge day for the Wildcats all the way across the board. So, as always, really appreciate you. We are in day-to-day mode right here, as you know. Again, sorry, a little bit under the weather today, but I look for a big Arizona men's basketball win against Cal, and you know what? I'm going out on a limb, and I think that Arizona women's basketball is going to beat Stanford. We'll be back with you tomorrow, see how that all played out. But as always, thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats.